Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the latest podcast for Miami Hurricanes Talk with Danny. My guest this week is longtime Virginia Tech color analyst Mike Burnop. Mike, good morning and thank you for coming.
I appreciate you having me. It's good to be on with you and looking forward to this weekend's game.
Yeah, number one, I looked at Virginia Tech last week. What I saw last week from them, the Virginia Tech defense has been terrible the last couple weeks. When I've seen them, what makes you what's the thing? What's it going to take for Virginia Tech to win this game?
Well, they got to play better, obviously, on all three phases than they have the last couple of weeks. When you go back to the Carolina game, Hokies got beaten up pretty bad by the pass from Drake May. He was kind of on his game and did a great job. And then last week, of course, Pitt, they had no answer for Ibanaconda, right? He ran for 320 yards and 6 touchdowns. So got to shore up that stuff for starters. Against Carolina, didn't have enough offense. And then against Pitt, the offense was a little bit better, but still not good enough. And then the special teams had breakdowns. You miss an extra point, you miss a field goal. Even though you block a punt, you get a punt blocked. So it was kind of mixed emotions there. So they just got to play better in all three phases. And I think being back home, that'll certainly help matters.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Number one, another thing I look at is Virginia Tech. One thing about Virginia Tech, for me, I've watched them over the years, is the special teams play. I mean, Virginia Tech over the years, they have Beamer ball, the special teams. I've always known Virginia Tech to be three things, Mike: special teams, defense, tough running game. Is Brent Pry trying to bring those elements back to Blacksburg, knowing that he served under Bud Foster back in the 90s as a grad assistant?
He absolutely is. That's his game plan. He was here in 1997, 8, and 9 as a GA, stayed here 3 years. And, Beamer ball was starting to get cranked up then, and defense obviously was a real key. And they had great running backs. So, yeah, that's what his plan is. He wants to be able to run the ball, but he also wants to be able to stretch the field. You have to do that in today's game. And then, obviously, you got to stop the run on defense, which drove him absolutely crazy last week with the defense and the way it didn't have great fits. Guys didn't trust each other and that sort of thing. And then special teams, they haven't really done much all season. I mean, they've been okay. They've held their own. They've done a great job covering, but they haven't made any big plays until last week. But it gets the plays that you gave up. So, yeah, I mean, they want to be more consistent, obviously, in all three phases, but that's kind of his plan. He's a defensive coach, came from Penn State as the coordinator. And, that's what he wants to do. It's just been a little bit slower. And part of that is the personnel. I mean, the cupboard was not great when he got here. And part of it is a new scheme. I mean, this is a new defense that they're playing, and it's taken a little bit of time to get some of these guys adjusted to it, especially like the will linebacker spot. It's a spot that guys have to play out there in space, be able to stop the run and the pass. And we got guys that haven't really played it before, and it's still kind of a work in progress.
Yeah, and the thing I look at, Mike, when I see Virginia Tech, 3-game losing streak, the turnovers have slowed down since the Old Dominion disaster, and the defense, when it comes to third down stops, you're the best in the conference. So the little things have hurt you guys, of course, scoring. Against West Virginia, the penalties were a killer there. Not been able to take the ball away. That was a big staple of Beamer ball, and the special teams, which was Beamer's MO, hasn't been good enough, like you said. What have they done to cut down on the penalties and try to score more?
Well, the penalty situation did get out of hand in several games, including Old Dominion and West Virginia. They did get better, a bit better, but then last week, they kind of reared their ugly head again. We had a situation when the ball was at the plus 38 yard line. I think it was the second possession of the game. And you're at the plus 38 and you get a penalty for a false start. And then right after that, you get a penalty for delay of game. And then next thing you know, you're having to punt the ball instead of kicking a field goal. So those are the little things that have really cost them. Penalties at inadvertent times, like you got a guy the other day against Pitt, the big offensive tackle got his hand up underneath the face mask of a defender for Pitt, 15-yard penalty, just killed him. So he has implemented some punishment for that. running some extra time for every yard of penalty. But that's something you got to clean up. I mean, you can't just keep shooting yourself in the foot. So that has been a problem and an issue for sure.
Yeah, no question, Mike. I mean, the same with us here at the University of Miami. I mean, we're on a 3-game losing streak ourselves. I mean, we did better against Carolina, but everyone throws well against Carolina. But I think on our ground game and our running game worked against A&M. I was at the A&M game. Quite an atmosphere, by the way, Mike. Got to do it.
I've been there. That place is unbelievable.
Yeah. Also, the thing is, our pass rush has been good. Special teams are good. We're good at the problem for Miami has been turnovers. Again, last week it reared its ugly head against Carolina on the 4th and 2, and then Carolina put us away with the long 18 play drive. And Virginia Tech's defense doesn't take the ball away like it does in the past, but it did force 2 fumbles in the loss to ODU, and it only came up with 3 takeaways in the last 5 games. So I don't know what it is about Virginia Tech. What do I know you have to do a lot of different things, but what do you have to do to really, what do you guys have? What is the key to the game in your opinion?
Well, I think clearly on offense, you got to be able to run the ball better than they have and be able to get the ball down the field. I mean, I think Miami's pass defense has been a little suspect. And so I think you got the opportunity there to maybe get some big explosive plays, which you need. And then on the flip side, you got to stop the run. I mean, you can't have a guy running crazy like he did last week. And you can't have Drake May like passing for all those yards he did against the Hokies. So I think that, on defense, you got to try to stop the run, force them to be one-dimensional, and try to get some pressure on Van Dyke, because obviously he has shown in many times that he can light you up if he has time and gets comfortable in the pocket. So, the Hokies they only have those 2 interceptions. One was the second play against Boston College, and then they got a pick last week against Pitt, which they converted into a touchdown. So, yeah, turnovers have been few and far between, a little bit disappointing, but, you just got to keep churning away. First-year coach with a new staff, new terminology, new offense, new defense. It's been a little bit of a work in progress and probably coming along slower than you'd hope.
Yeah, and like Brent Fry's going to turn it around. I really feel he's going to turn around up there. The same with Mario Cristobal here at Miami. So I was, by the way, a little personal. I was on with Sons of Saturday last night on their podcast, and the thing they told me is, what are your favorite eats up in Blacksburg?
Favorite places to eat?
Yes, in Blacksburg, or around the country. They told me you're very good at
that. Yeah. So the farmhouse is a great place to eat. That's an old place. It was an old farmhouse back in the day. They have kind of these individual booths that are with barn wood inside of them. Great food. Good place. Got an outdoor bar area. That's really a nice place. And then PK's is kind of a famous spot where they have great pizza and wings and drinks and whatnot. So that's another great place. So yeah, there are several around here. 622 North. That's a nice restaurant. So yeah, there are a few places that are really good.
Yeah, I've seen that. I heard a lot of good things about it. But yeah, I went back looking at the game. Is the one thing I look at Virginia Tech is that's not a team that does well on either side of the ball. 26 points a game, only 20 per game. What have you seen from Grant Wells this season coming over from Marshall?
Well, he's hadn't been as accurate as you would hope he would be. He's thrown more interceptions than you hoped he would do. I mean, like the Old Dominion game, for example, what we saw there, I didn't see the whole preseason. I mean, I went to every scrimmage, most of the practices, and he didn't throw 1 interception in any of the scrimmages. And then he comes out there and just has a bad day against Old Dominion. Now, one of them, granted, was a drop pass. One of them was just kind of a shot at the end of the game to try to make a play. But still, I think he's pretty accurate. He can throw the deep ball really well. He needs maybe a little bit more touch on some of his short passes. But I think all in all, he can get out of trouble. He hasn't been sacked a ton. He's got a pretty good set of legs, and he's pretty accurate. So I think half the problem has been you don't have an explosive receiver that can get open and get a lot of separation. So other than Caleb Smith, and he's kind of the guy that's been the man making the big plays. Now, this tight end, Daquan Wright, has really come on the last several weeks, and been a big plus. So you may see more of him on Saturday as well.
Yeah, another thing I've looked at, you talk about Caleb Smith. He's been the only bright spot really in that offense this year. Basically 402 receiving yards, 2 scores through 6 games, but the run game hasn't been great. Only 3.2 yards per carry though.
Yeah, it's been a little difficult. And, I think part of that was Malachi Thomas. He'd been out, hurt his foot back in the preseason, and he just came back last week and had 84 yards on 15 carries against Pitt. Also had, I think, 5 catches in the game. So Malachi being back certainly helps matters. Then it kind of gives you a 1-2 punch a little bit because you got Malachi and you got Keyshawn King, Florida kid, and he's really maybe the fastest guy on the team. And he can make some explosive plays as well. So I think they're happy to get Malachi back. Hopefully he can stay healthy and help out in that some of those running game numbers.
Yeah, and when I look at Virginia Tech's defense, one thing about Bud Foster defense is the lunch pail. Is Brent Pry bringing back the lunch pail?
Yes, he did. Absolutely did. It's been important. And as a matter of fact, some of these games that they haven't played well, he has not given the lunch pail to anybody because he feels he has to earn it. So, yes, that's been another little thing too.
Which I like. I one thing I've always respected when we play Virginia Tech over the years is the lunch pail mentality. I'm going to miss that when we have the 3-3-5. That's the one sad part. We're not going to play Virginia Tech after this game. Yeah,
well, they're really sad here too because that was everybody kind of thought that was a given. That the two that you're going to have, they're almost automatic for the University of Virginia, obviously, because you're in your backyard.
Well, that's the Commonwealth Cup.
With Miami, and then you end up with Pitt and Wake Forest. It's like, what? It's like didn't make sense to a lot of people. But yeah, so this is the last time. This 40th meeting this Saturday, and we won't see him for a couple of years. So that's kind of disappointing for sure.
Yeah.
Go back and think about some of the games through the years have been incredible. They've had some incredible games, especially when both teams are ranked.
Yeah. And the thing I look at here is one of the better linebackers is Dax Hollifield. I mean, 61st in the nation, 47 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups, and a quarterback where he's forced to fumble. But outside of Hollifield, there's nobody that you can name over there. They've only forced 5 turnovers this year. We forced 9, but their pass defense is pretty good, allowing 202 yards, almost 203 yards a game. But how can we win this game? Basically, what we have to do, Tyler Van Dyke has to play better. He has to do what he did last week. And after what Abaconda did to Virginia Tech on the ground, I mean, we've got to make sure we take advantage of what Pitt was able to do. But it's a must-win game, really, for both teams, to be quite honest. What are your take on that?
Yeah, when you think about that, I mean, somebody's going to leave this Lane Stadium Saturday with a 4-game losing streak. That's unheard of. To think about that, this is the first time in all these meetings that Virginia Tech and Miami have had that both teams have come in with a losing record. I mean, just think about that. So, yeah, it is a huge game for both teams, and especially for Virginia Tech when you think about they got to go on the road and play at NC State on a Thursday night game as their next game.
Short turnaround.
So you got the week off, but still
the bye week, yes.
Yeah, you got the bye week, but NC State's really, really good.
Yes.
And it's not going to get any easier for the Hokies. So I think they're putting a lot into this game and certainly hoping that they're going to be able to play better in all 3 phases. Yeah,
so I see someone's going to join shortly, and maybe he'll come in. We have some difficulty there. But yeah, while we wait for our Tony Palomino to come in. In fact, Tony's here now. No, Tony just left us. So anyway, when I look at Tech, I mean, if I'm going to have a guy come on right now, Tony. So, Mike, do you have a question you want to take a question or two?
Sure.
All right. So we're just going to get David Bray on shortly, and he will come on. Dave Bray, good morning. You're on with Mike Burnop. Did I get that right? Burnop?
Yeah, that's good.
Mike Burnop on. Dave, you have a question for him?
And who's Mike with? I'm sorry.
Mike Burnop. He's the color analyst for Virginia Tech.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, David?
Good. So tell me what's going on in Hokie Land. I just remember you guys were, you lost a lot of players, right, in the offseason?
Yeah, when you get a new coach, sometimes that happens. And a couple of guys went to the transfer portal. a couple of your skill guys like Tavion Robinson. He ended up at Kentucky and is having a heck of a year there. And Trey Turner decided to go to the NFL draft and didn't get drafted and didn't make it. Now he's waiting for the USFL. A couple guys are the same position as he is. So we did lose some players, which is kind of typical sometimes when you have coaching changes. But it's been a work in progress because new offense, new defense, new terminology. Both quarterbacks came out of the transfer portal, and defensively, it's a totally new scheme, more like Penn State played under Brent Pry. And it's been a little bit of a work in progress. Special teams haven't been anything spectacular, and so that's been somewhat of a struggle for sure. Too many penalties, too many turnovers.
Joseph, we're gonna Joseph come on shortly. Joseph may have a question for you, Mike. So we're gonna get him on shortly. While we wait, Dave, you have a follow-up? Okay, Joe's on now. Joe, you have a question for Mike Burnop. Hello, Joseph. Joseph, are you there? Please unmute your mic. And your mic's unmuted. Are you there? No, Mike, he just left us. So Dave, you have a follow-up you want to ask him?
Yeah. So what do you guys think of the game's at Tech, right?
Yes, in
Yes, it's in Blacksburg, 12:30 game, and the weather's supposed to be good.
And what's the line? Do you guys know? 7?
I think Miami's favored.
Yeah, we are favorite, Dave. Miami is a 7 as of now, 7.5-point favorite right now.
And what's the perception of Miami right now? Like, what is the vibe about, your opponent going into this week?
I think they've got a lot of respect for him, especially their quarterback, Van Dyke, who's just a tremendous player. I don't think they have the receivers that they had a year ago with the graduation, and maybe they're not great in the running game yet. I think they feel good about the matchup. I think they're going to obviously try to run the ball and maybe try to exploit some of the secondary of Miami and just try to be solid in special teams. But, they got to play better in all three phases. It's not so much about Miami. It's about what Virginia Tech can do, clean up the penalties, clean up the turnovers, and then be solid in all three phases. And then just kind of roll the dice.
In fact,
are you guys happy with your staff so far?
Yeah, I think he's happy with the staff. Yeah, he's Brent Pry is a defensive guy. He was the coordinator, of course, at Penn State, and he's pretty much still calling the defensive plays along with Chris Marr, defensive coordinator. But they've turned the offense over to Tyler Bowen. I think they're happy with everybody so far. It's just a matter of we got to get some better players in here.
All right. Yeah. Another thing I looked at last week: 320 yards and 6 touchdowns to Abaconda. By the way, that was the most rushing yards a player has ever rolled up in one game against B Tech. In fact, Brent Price said this, and I quote, "We missed a couple of tackles that were critical that led to explosive runs. Anytime you let the ball outside your defense, you've got issues. We didn't edge the defense well enough." I'm sure that's been an emphasis, Mike, this week in practice.
It has. There's no doubt. You can't lose containment on the outside. You got to force them back to the inside. On Bonacana, give him a lot of credit. He got better as the game went on, and then there were a couple of those long touchdown runs. He never got touched. So, yeah, the fit wasn't great. And I think one of the pluses coming out of the week is Alan Tisdale, who's been out all year at linebacker. He will start probably in that will linebacker spot, which maybe help matters because he's a guy that's been around a long time, had an eligibility issue, and hopefully he'll be able to come in and maybe make an impact because he's seen an awful lot of stuff.
Hey, okay, Mike. Okay, well, let's get John Cummins in. John, you have a question for Mike?
Yeah. Just in terms of the way the defense has looked, do you think they're going to make the proper adjustments from the Middle Tennessee game to this game to kind of set everything right?
Is that a question for me?
Yes, for you, Mike.
We didn't play Middle Tennessee.
No, we played Middle Tennessee, Mike. Yeah. And I think John, your question is, how have we gotten better defensively, and what will Virginia Tech try to do? Have they watched any Middle Tennessee State tape?
Yeah, they've watched all the tapes. They have, obviously, yes. And I mean, it's there. I think they're going to try to run the ball first and foremost, but obviously they're not afraid to pass it. And I think when you look at Miami's secondary that's been maybe a little bit of the weakness on that defense. And I think they'll try to get the ball down the field with some of the playmakers. Grant Wells has got a good arm. He can get it down the field. It's just a matter of trying to get some of those receivers to get a little bit of separation.
Okay. Coach Harford, you have a question for Mike?
Yeah. I was just kind of wondering, I'm getting sick and tired of us playing against the Carolina guys. I just posted the picture of their disrespectful you down stuff. I'm just wondering, what does Cristobal kind of have to do just to kind of change the program and the outlook of everything? Because right now, I mean, it's tough, and I'm annoyed.
Yeah, basically, Mike, Mario Cristobal down here, and Dave can attest to this. I think Mario's going to change the culture. It's going to take time. You got to let that seed grow. When you let that seed grow, good things happen. I think the fruit of his labor, Mike, and I think that's been the criticism of us, of the fan base down here, is we're not patient enough. We have to be more patient. We have to be more patient. And that's what our criticism, people in our fan base down here, Mike, has been saying that about. Have you gotten the same vibe about VTech?
Well, yeah,
same thing.
Yeah.
Hold on, Mike, speak. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, you got to be patient. I mean, with these guys coming in first year, you got to kind of change the culture. I think you see that at UVA. Tony Elliott was talking the other day. We can't go back to last year. We're putting in our program. We're doing it our way. And it's going to take some time. And I think the fan base, they're so impatient this day, and the social media ways that we're in. I mean, they have no patience. And just like firing Coach Christ up at Wisconsin, how many games were they in? 4 or 5 games into the season?
Yeah, 5 games in.
Yeah, people, I mean, it's just like the leash is so short, but you got to give these guys a little bit of time. It's so much different from what it used to be. When you talk about Coach Beamer, when he came in, he went 2-9, 3-8. I mean, this day and time, he would never have survived. But he ends up staying 29 years and had a great run.
Yes.
There's no doubt Mario's going to build us into a powerhouse. The question becomes, are we going to win a championship? Is he a championship national championship caliber sort of coach? I don't know. Like, I think one thing that he needs to sort of adapt to is really improving his on the field stuff, and really trusting and relying his coordinators, and so obviously we're not there yet, year one, but that's been a narrative about him at other places. And so, but like I said, no doubt he's getting the players and building the right program. So
yeah, and I think Virginia Tech, Mike, you can attest this, they're doing the same thing down in Blacksburg, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just a matter of time. The Hokie Nation, I think, will be, very patient. And I think they'll do the same thing in Miami. Mario's a great coach. He's got an unbelievable staff. You guys can get great players down there. And now with this NIL deals, and the transfer portal, the sky's the limit as far as talent you can get. I mean, you look at people switching around seemingly every year. It's incredible how many transfers you have on your roster. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So you literally can build a program pretty quick if you get the right pieces.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to get you out on this. We're going to talk keys to the game and then a prediction. Okay, Mike, your keys to the game on Saturday.
Well, first of all, on defense, you got to play better. You can't give up all those yards rushing to a guy like last week at Pitt, and you can't give up the passing yards to Van Dyke like they did against Drake May and Carolina. So defense has got to play better, kind of hold the explosive plays down. Offensively for Virginia Tech, they need to try to establish the run with Malachi Thomas and Keyshawn King, and then try to take some shots downfield against their pass defense. And a lot of that goes back to the trenches, right? You got to protect him and open up holes for the running game, protect Grant Wells. And then special teams can't implode like they did last week. So, I mean, that's to me the keys. And obviously penalties, turnovers, those things go without saying.
Yeah, I think the keys for Miami is one, basically got to cut, like you said, the turnovers. We got to cut that out. Miami has not been able to overcome adversity the last 3 weeks. See, penalties are not the issue with Miami. 7 giveaways have been. See, I think one thing we got to do, if Miami does not turn the ball over in big spots, I think Miami wins this ball game. So I'm going to start with you. Give me a prediction for Saturday, Mike. I'll let you out.
Well,
on
I think there's so much riding on this game in terms of what's happened with the 3-game losing streak. I think they've showed progress in certain areas. They're getting closer. You know, I think somehow, some way, the Hokies will figure out a way to win this thing since it's at home. It's a sellout crowd. It's going to be great weather.
I love Enter Sandman, by the way. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I think that they'll figure out a way to win this thing. I expect it to be close. Could come down to a field goal at the end of the game. You just never know. But I just think the Hokies will figure out a way to win this thing somehow.
Okay, I'm gonna go 31-17 Miami. I think Miami's due for a big time game. They're long overdue for a big win like this. I mean, we've had Miami's been on a 3-game losing streak. I think it's gonna be, we put the puzzle together. Yes, both coaches are gonna need a while. Miami's way overdue to come up with a big performance. I think we'll stop the Hokies from running the ball, and Wells won't be enough. I'm going, like I said, 31-17 Miami. That's my prediction for this ball game. I do have to come up to one little side before I go, Mike, is my niece was taught at Virginia Tech.
How about that?
And she's not Michigan State, but she was at Virginia Tech. I've got to go up there at least once. Hopefully, when we play Virginia Tech again up there, down the road, I gotta do Lane Stadium at night one time, because that is definitely a bucket list item for sure.
Absolutely. You got to put that on there. It'll be great Saturday too, just because coming through there and into a sellout crowd, Enter Sandman, that's pretty cool. But at night, it's even better.
At night, yeah. Listen, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. Enjoy the game Saturday. I will not be there. I have family coming in Saturday. So anyway, enjoy the game, and we'll talk again down the road.
Okay. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Mike.